All right, a pleasant good afternoon once more, and we're back on. And so, what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do a quick recap before we get into it. A quick recap. And let's start with Daniel chapter 11, verse 32 to 44. It spake both of Rome and the rise of the papacy. It also spake of the wars of the caliphate. That is the Islamic wars. And then in Daniel chapter 11, verse 45, that is a key scripture that I would like us to read because it is very critical. Daniel chapter 11, verse 45. And he shall plant the tabernacles of his palace between the seas in the glorious holy mountain. Yet he shall come to his end, and none shall help him. So what is this tabernacle of his palace in the glorious holy mountain? Well, we know the glorious holy mountain is in Jerusalem. But what is this tabernacle of his palace, and where is between the seas? Because, and he shall plant the tabernacle between the seas in the glorious holy mountains. Well, to understand that, Jerusalem sits between the Dead Sea. You have the Dead Sea on the east, the Mediterranean Sea in the west, and down into the south you have the Red Sea. And Jerusalem is exactly between the Dead Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So when they say he shall plant his tabernacle between the seas, it is referring to Jerusalem, the whole glorious holy mountain in Jerusalem. So we know who planted their tabernacle in the glorious holy mountain. As we look at what took place prior in Daniel chapter 11, we know it was the caliphate that planted that tabernacle in the glorious holy mountains. But we wouldn't stop there. As I said, between the seas is the Dead Sea, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Red Sea to the south. Now, this is a critical piece of information in understanding what comes next in the book of Daniel. And Daniel chapter 12, verse 7. We're now going back to Daniel chapter 12. So we are going over to Daniel chapter 12. And we start verse 7. Let's hear what it says. And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and half. So that is 1 time, 2 times, and half a time. That is 3.5, 1260 years in prophecy. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all these things shall be finished. So he's speaking of a 1260-year period must be accomplished. The holy people would be scattered. And then now we go to Daniel chapter 12, verse 11 to 13. We have quite a bit of reading to do today, and we try to get you as much as possible today and see if we could finish this. Daniel chapter 12, verse 11 to 13. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up, there shall be 1,290 days. So just now we spoke about 1260. Now we see 1290 days from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up. So what we need to do is find out when was the daily sacrifice taken away, and when was the abomination that maketh desolate set up. When would this happen? When did it happen, or when would it happen? You see, there's a popular teaching with most end-time Bible prophets, and it is mentioned that sometime in the future, with regards to Daniel and the last 7 days or the last 7 years, that a great leader would rise up and he would go into the temple and he would commit some sort of abomination in the middle of his 7-year reign. He would have established a 7-year peace plan, and in the middle of the week he would defile that plan, and he would go into the temple and do something that is abominable. He would think, and after that, the next 3.5 years would be 3.5 years of great tribulation. This is the popular teaching, but what Daniel is saying here, he's saying when this abomination takes place, there will be 1290 years after this. So we must look at the word when doing this. So again, I gave you what was popular, but we must now look carefully at what the word say. We must focus and pay attention to this verse 11, from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away. And so 2 things is happening. The daily sacrifice has to be taken away, and the abomination that maketh desolate set up. Because there shall be 1,290 days. So we want to look at that. What is Daniel speaking about? And how do we come to terms to understand this? When was the daily sacrifice taken away and this thing set up? When? 2 things we must do. We must pay attention to details. And so to understand this, we must go to, because Daniel explains everything in many of his other chapters. So we must go, let us go to Daniel chapter 8, verse 13, and hear what he's saying. Hear exactly what he's saying. Daniel chapter 8, verse 13. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot? So this daily sacrifice being removed and the transgression of desolation has to do with a period of time to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden under foot. And we know when the sanctuary and the host was trodden under foot. In 70 AD, the sanctuary was destroyed. And so bear that in mind. Bear that in mind, because he's saying it, the transgression to give both the sanctuary to be trodden underfoot. So something happened at the time when the sanctuary